live, and we'll just see if we get any nasty notifications. But we're going to be going through the Thursday MLB slate. Now, again, first note is that the first game locks at 6:40 p.m., so it's a little bit earlier than normal. I'm not going to be around for live. I'm heading into the city for dinner this evening. But it's a nice little handy 6-game slate that we'll go over.
Last night, good night for it to head out, because this is not a fun slate.
Yeah. Last night I actually was at the Yankee game with my mom and Stacy also, but I was with my mom. Who, she's a Yankee fan, but health issues have prohibited her from being able to go really since COVID. And I just made it work, and we brought her. We had a great time. DFS wise, I actually cashed in the 250 and the single entry. I did not cash in the 555. Matt Manning was not only doing that great anyway, but then he got hurt. He got smacked with a freaking line drive, which didn't help my 555 situation. But one thing I didn't notice, it's really funny. Like I had a couple of good lineups that. Listen, got 18th, 19th, which is good in those tournaments. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, I had Sandoval as the last pitcher in there. But I got to tell you, man, when you have Sandoval and you're against Baltimore and literally every single hitter is right-handed, it's annoying. You know what I mean? Like every single one of them is like a freaking hassle to try to get out. So that was whatever.
Well, I either stacked and mini stacked Baltimore and still lost, so I don't know how that worked.
But I did have my one wager came through. My over in the Scherzer Verlander pitching duel.
Oh, you had that one over in like 2 innings.
I was over after the second inning.
I should have known when you said that right away that it was just all bets off in that game. Just go with Houston or Texas.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's like what's his name? So two comments. One is Rody came in, hey, we got to get these bets up there. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I mean, if you guys want to watch the videos and stuff like that, if I feel like dropping one in, I will. If you want consistent betting content, then you'll follow Bobby. If you want like sheets, like kind of whenever he feels like it once a week, maybe, then you're just gonna have to be there when it gets there. My ROI is really strong, but listen, maybe 4 bets a year. It's not a big deal. The other thing, it's so funny, Tyler, I don't know if you got the same Discord message I did.
I did. I said
he wants to enter like some $50,000 buy-in, like against the spread contest. I'd rather just take the money, just throw it in the trash can, as far as I'm concerned.
Sheetbot Centro DFS MLB projections have
been
been
oh my God!
Available
projections are going to 8%.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's baseball. It's baseball. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah. So listen, it's content, Sports City. For the next whatever until baseball playoffs, because you have baseball every day pretty much. You have NFL. It seems like going to be like every day. Not to mention all the MMA and the other stuff that I got going on. So we're gonna do the best that we can, and there are gonna be glitches because Saberson had a big overhaul. But listen, it's gonna be fun to try to figure it out.
Yep.
So I guess we'll go game by game and
real quickly, I'm just going to mention a few things. One, I'll be doing a live for baseball tonight, obviously, but I'll also be doing a live for football for the showdown, which I'm really pumped up about, and that's the main thing. And hello to Joanne in the chat. Good to see you, and thank you. Good luck to you as well. I'm getting pumped for football. And I also just want to mention, because it's been a while, that it was nice to actually win a tournament yesterday. But it wasn't a big tournament, but I had a shot at the lottery in an early slate. I won the $44 or whatever for like $2.
How much did that pay?
It's like $2K, but I only had one lineup in it.
Dude, a win is a win.
Yeah, and the lottery, I had a good chance, but then Gurriel with 2 outs in the 8th hit a home run and knocked me from I think I would have.
I saw that, but you didn't have the pitcher, right?
I didn't have the pitcher, but I had all of the bats left, and then my Phillies guys were all on, and they didn't score. They both got on in the 9th, and the 4 extra points would have put me over the top had they scored and he not come out. Look, I know there's a lot of things to say. It's hard to win those lotteries, even the smaller ones. So it was a shot, though. It was fun to have a little shot. Ready to get back after it today. Another day of grinding, but since I've come back, I haven't had knock on wood, a losing session in the last 3 days. So I'm ready to have a losing day, I should say.
I have what I think is kind of I don't know, like a fun take. I don't know. I think it's kind of an interesting take on one of the plays today. So we'll get to it, I guess, pretty quickly. So first game I have is Seattle Tampa.
Okay.
I guess I could just get started.
Yeah, why don't you start that one because I was ready for the Dodgers.
Yeah, so I mean, I was expecting, again, I'm really looking at this for the first time, and I was expecting to see something different. I was expecting to see Luis Castillo being the best play, but I'm not. I guess at 11K it's kind of rough, and I guess Tampa's not, I guess the greatest matchup in the world. So I'm not actually getting to Luis Castillo as one of the top plays here. I have like some cheaper guys as better plays. And I'm seeing Castillo at like 23% ownership. So, okay, that's something I guess you could do, is not play that. I have Zach Littell as kind of, again, a lower owned option as well. I mean, there's going to be a chalky, mid-range to lower range pitcher we're going to get to. And I guess Littell is not the worst thing in the world if 15% ownership is accurate. And as I've been saying, I've been playing Seattle like a lot this year, and I usually like to play them against the lefties so I can play the righties. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think Littell is as I like to say nowadays, probably it wouldn't be the worst play I've ever made. What about? Let me see. What do I have for the hitting here? I mean, again, even though like Seattle, whatever, they always usually show up. No, I'm actually not even seeing Seattle show up as anything decent here. So I'm probably going to be off of the hitting and taking more of a shot at Littell than Castillo. I don't know. What do you like in this game?
Yeah, I think that, again, I have the same thing, a little bit more interested in Littell off the bat more than I do Castillo. This is going to be a very straightforward slate for a lot of people. Atlanta has got a 700 million run total against the guy who's been the worst pitcher in baseball this season. So people are going to try and get him in. I think it leaves Castillo low owned, which makes things kind of interesting. And also you have Tampa, who strikes out a lot against righties, even though they have some pop also. Because it's a small slate, I just mentioned a couple quick plays, but I have Littell as definitely in play, but I think I like other guys a little bit better. If I had to pick any like individual bats from this game, I actually think one good thing to do would be, like, no one's going to play Tampa, and I don't think you should necessarily play them, but Brandon Lowe or Josh Lau. Okay, maybe I got that backwards. I always do that with the lows and the lows. Playing one of those guys against Castillo, I think just going to have a low owned option with some upside. Just throwing it out there because I don't think you need to fully stack. As I mentioned, yesterday in my near win, I didn't have a full stack. I had like a 3-2-2-1. And if you're looking for like an interesting one-off, one of Lau or Rosarena or Lowe would make some sense to me against Castillo. And, for what it's worth, these teams have pretty similar run totals to the rest of the game. So I don't mind taking a bat at 2 or against Castillo. I think a couple people will play Seattle, but I think they'll be pretty low owned as well. And I mostly am just interested in slightly in the pitching, mostly probably going to end up being a cross-off game with the exception of maybe a one-off from Tampa Bay. Dodgers in Miami. Do you want me to jump in here?
Sure.
Okay. So I think Braxton Garrett is a good pitcher, first of all. I think he's a solid pitcher, I should say. The Dodgers have struggled against lefties, and I think people would be a little bit surprised, actually, exactly how much so without JD Martinez especially. You also run the risk when you play the Dodgers without, and I mention all this because I want to play the Dodgers a little bit. You have the Dodgers who the problem is that the pinch hit risk gets a little scary. The only thing is, are they in the mode to be pinch hitting? Now they're pretty wrapped up where they're going to be in the playoffs. I mean, they could still go on a run. Atlanta could go on a cooler, and they could somehow catch Atlanta and have the best record in the NL. I think they're pretty settled. They won the division already, basically. So I don't know that I actually think it sort of eliminates a little bit of the pinch hit risk in a game like this. I know that sounds weird, but like you just might see some of these guys stick in there a little bit longer because the regular guys aren't there. So there's still pinch hit risk. Don't get me wrong. But I think it's a little bit less so than it might have been at other times. We're not going to be pinch hitting in the third inning or things like that. I really would be surprised if they did that. So I have some interest in the Dodgers. Just, again, small slate. Their projections and their numbers, their run total doesn't look great. They're not going to be particularly high owned. And that's enough for me to play some Dodgers. So I am going to be on the Dodger train a little bit at I think, slate size considering fairly low ownership. I don't think I'm going to play Pepio. He sort of needs everything to go exactly right, like it has been. And even then, you're not seeing like these, outrageous numbers. He's pitched well. He's a really good pitcher, but he hasn't pitched to more than 19 batters in a game yet. His price at 8,500 is too high for the limited ceiling, and I really think he's like hitting his ceiling in these games. I mean, he's given up 1 run so far, or 2 runs so far, I guess, in 3 starts. I just think you need everything to go a little too perfect for him to be in play for me. So for me, I like the Dodgers bats, and I don't mind if you wanted to play a one-off or a small thing. I don't think I'd be stacking the Marlins after coming off the monster performance from them yesterday. But I certainly think like Jesus Sanchez, Jazz Chisholm, if you want to play a one-off, I have no problem with it. For me, it's mostly the Dodgers here.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers are a very natural, pivot off of Atlanta if you feel like doing it. Atlanta's going to project to have, a hell of a lot more runs. Much better ballpark, better matchup, better hitters, honestly. Some percentage of the ownership, you know what I mean? It'll be lower owned. So I think Dodgers are certainly very reasonable pivot. And the Papillon guy, whatever. I'm just not quite exactly getting him as a top play. I have him rated, looks like 7th or something like that. But if you want to fade like the top 3 pitchers who I have, we haven't even gotten them yet. Then like a lot of guys are in play. So I don't know. Maybe he gets lost at 8,500 in the mix, and maybe his 16 fantasy points is good enough. So it depends on how many lineups you play. He's not going to be he's not going to be my big buy-in selection. But if you're MME, I can use him.
Yeah, it's weird that part of the reason I crossed him off is I've got him as the second highest owned pitcher on the slate right now.
Oh, really?
As a projection, I don't think that's going to be the case, but I think that that's partly why the 8,500. The truth is, though, there is enough value if you want to do things. But if you want to play the Dodgers and Atlanta together, which I think is the way that I kind of want to go, I think that it's harder to get to Pepio. And like I said, I just worry a little bit about the extreme upside for him here. Just again, hasn't pitched to more than 19 batters in a game yet so far. It's kind of like you need everything to go perfect. And Miami is we should probably point out, it's a little better of an offense. This is not Miami of a few years ago. Their offense, especially since the All-Star break, has been pretty solid. All right. Let's talk about your Yankees, Sheets. Why don't you jump in on this one?
Yeah. So again, now I'm poisoned because I actually sat there for 2 hours or so and kind of took it all in and just and checked them out. The Yankees are, and I didn't know this at the time. The Yankees were exactly 500 going into last night, and that put them in last place in their division. That's the way it goes. And I was watching the game, just taking it all in. And, first thing to note is, I'm going to talk a little baseball for a minute, which I really never do, right? So, first of all, the stadium is about half filled, maybe 2/3, it's like dead quiet. It's just like, that's what happens when you like expect to like win every freaking year and you're having a down year. It is dead there. It is. You can hear a pin drop, unless like Aaron Judge hits a home run or somebody hits a home run. Like somebody hit a home run. This new kid who's I think is really good actually.
He's Dominguez, yeah, he's a top guy.
Yeah, even him. He hit a home run. That's like a big deal, and you barely heard anything. That's like these pitchers that come in. There's no more intimidation coming to Yankee Stadium. It's not for a while, right? But here's the other thing that I noticed. So Clark Schmidt actually had a really, really good game.
Yeah.
And it's almost kind of sad because you've also, what else has happened in the last couple of weeks? Like Luis Severino's finally got off his ass. You know what I mean? Like even he's been pitching better. And it's kind of almost like tilting, to be a Yankee fan. It took like Severino the whole season to get going. Schmidt's finally coming around. And what's going to happen. Like Carlos Rodon is going to probably end the season like 6-0. You know what I mean? Like he just failed the whole season, or first it was like hard to bring him back or whatever it is. So that would be kind of classic Yankees here. So you have Carlos Rodon as the top projected play on the slate from a points per dollar perspective. I have him as the tied with the top owned pitcher at 35%. And I think that on a short slate with not that many options, I don't want to say he's a tough fade because he hasn't put up a number that's like great yet, but because of the lack of options, I think he's solid here against Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I would mention is that given like how the Yankees are just like, I'm gonna tell you, I watched like a Gleyber Torres at bat, and it's like he's like half the team is basically saying, okay, when do I get to go into the dugout? When is this game over? Okay, even like in a win, you know what I mean? Like that's what's going on. And this to me, and it's not projecting well at all. This to me just feels like Erod could just come in here and have a big game. You know what I mean? Like I don't know why, how, or who, but this is like a perfect opportunity for him to come in, take advantage of kind of the Yankee team, which kind of like walking through going through the motions, and just having a big game on a slate where no one looks good. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of that's going to be my sort of, I don't say stand, but my kind of sort of hot take is that Erod I can't even find him in my projections. Like he's so far down the list, but guy throws it hard against a team has no interest. I don't know. I think I'm going to take a shot at that. So that's going to be my anti-projection, anti-Saber Sim, anti-Sheets, anti-everything plays just to go with Erod. As far as the hitting goes, yeah, I guess on the other side of it, you could say the Yankees are also a reasonable pivot or whatever it is. But I don't know. That's just again my gut here, kind of like overwhelming what the numbers are saying. But I kind of want to take a shot at Erod in this spot. So Rodon certainly a good play, and Erod would be my GPP play.
Yeah, I agree with basically everything you said. I do have Rodon as the top pitcher. I understand, like, if people want to fade him at ownership, that's okay. That's whatever. I'm going to play him probably in my biggest buy-in tonight, and that's just the way it is. He's cheap. There's just as much upside for him as there is basically for any other pitcher on the slate. I don't really know what they're going to do in terms of letting him go. It does have me a little bit concerned, but not enough to where I'm not going to play him. I totally agree about Erod, and that's the only way that maybe I don't end up playing Rodon in my big one. The problem is I want the salary, but Erod, you're going to get like no ownership on a guy against the Yankees on this slate, who's, by the way, has been really, really good. I think he's the second highest scoring pitcher by average on the season. Yeah, it was just behind Fried, just barely. He averages 19 fantasy points a game. I think that's really interesting to play Erod at low ownership here. I also like, you could make some cases. Just pointing out, if you're not going to play Rodon, Jake Rogers, if he's batting fifth, which he's projected to right now at 2.8K, is a really good play. And Andy Ibanez will be 2.4. So you could use Detroit for value if you want to get your Atlanta pieces in if you don't want to play Rodon. But I'm with you. I think that Erod and Rodon are both going to be heavily featured in my lineups. The only problem is, as you mentioned yesterday, again, maybe it doesn't matter because the Yankees don't score anyway that much. It's 86 degrees and it's humid and
so hot.
It's so hot. Nice hitting weather out there, Yeah, it's brutal. They closed it in the morning yesterday. I heard at the Open, just because it was so hot. So,
dude, I was there till 9:30 at night, and it was hot when we left.
It's crazy.
I wonder if they let that guy keep playing the Dominguez.
What's that?
Like this guy, this Dominguez.
Yeah, and I think he's of all the. I'm just looking at the ownership really quickly. I'm going to guess that Dominguez is going to be one of the most popular players, regardless of the Yankees stats.
You'd have to think, right?
He's just too cheap for what he is, and actually he's not showing up as a particularly high owned. And I know that's weird. Put Dominguez in the one-off category then, because I think that's a really, really good play if he's low owned. Even though I, again, have some interest in Erod. All right. And to answer Travis's question, I will be going live for Showdown tonight. Yes, we've done tons of Showdown videos in the past, and you said we haven't done one. We've done them we've done literally hundreds of them. And I'll be doing another one tonight.
No, but here's the thing. Okay. So listen, when it comes to Showdown videos, like when I like do them on my own, for example, every once in a while I have to do it on my own if you're not around or something like that.
Yeah.
I find them like kind of, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I don't want to say boring or just kind of useless or whatever, but you didn't upset me, but you were actually kind of it was weird. Like I don't know how to put this. So I was talking about what I was going to do about the showdown slate. I want to run a couple of saber symbols. I want to do whatever. And you're like, oh, gee, thanks. You know what I mean? Because
I was joking.
No, I know, but for me, like playing showdown slates is so little about the players. It really is. It's like so little about whatever. And here's my issue. My issue is something that I brought up like last year, which I couldn't sell you on, and I probably can't sell anybody on this. But I think that the idea of creating a game script in your mind of how the game is going to go and creating your showdown slates in accordance with that, I think that's like a huge leak and myth. I think that it's something that makes like a lot of sense to do, but when it comes to actually showing results in showdown slates, I don't think that I really don't think that I think that approach, if anything, leads to more owned lineups.
Yeah,
actual lineups that can be unique, that can do it. So I'm probably like in a minority as far as that goes. So.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with you more. I think
I know.
And we've all had different variations of really good results on showdowns, and including Rody. Rody and I have a more similar attitude on this one. The double tight end, the double running back, and then to make sure you have a game flow that makes sense for enough of your build.
Yeah, that's the thing. The game flow thing for me, it just. I don't know. Me being this cynical person I am, I feel as it's more that is more conducive to like filling videos with content than actually providing results. Honestly, like it's such a cool thing to talk about. Hey, I want that this guy establishes the run, and these guys are going to be less going. I think for classic slates, I think that matters a little bit more. I think our showdown slate is so ripe with variance that it's just. I don't know. Anyway, well, we'll see.
Yeah, they are, and the truth is, I don't play as many lineups, and I'm playing mostly. But I have to say, my showdown is record in the single entry. And I'm sorry, when I play one entry in the 222s or whatever it is, I think I cashed like 12 or 13 times last year. I had like 4 top 5s with those. It was weird, and it is a lot, that double running back, double tight end from the same teams. The double running back from the same teams, and that's been a lot of what's done, but this is not the week to go for that. Anyway, I'll get more into my showdown thoughts later. But it is interesting because we have different approaches, and it doesn't mean that either is right or wrong. It's just that's just how we do it.
But the good thing is, the cool thing about it is that by the time we get enough samples to prove which approach is right, we'll all be like our grandchildren will be dead of old age.
Right.
Like that's the sum.
Right. All right. So talk about chalk here. This is going to be the chalk of the day. Sheets, what are you doing here?
Well, I'm not going to play Atlanta. I mean,
Okay.
What am I going to do?
Can I make a weird case that if you don't play Atlanta, that maybe you should consider Wainwright?
Oh, I'm going to have some Wainwright. I mean, he's 5K.
Yeah, there you go.
He's 5K. He'll get 11 if he gets 11 fantasy. If he gets 11 fantasy points, like Atlanta probably busts. You know what I mean? Like that's So I think they correlate. I'll play a little Wainwright. I just don't want to play 30% on hitters, And unfortunately, because Rodon looks like such a good play, and we'll even get to some others or whatever. You could probably actually get away. I don't know if you could do this, but I was wondering if you could actually play Freed with Rodon. Probably not at Atlanta. But
you can get away with pieces of it. They have enough guys in the 4Ks now. They dropped the price on Darno should be catching tonight, and they dropped the price on Murphy, even if Murphy is catching.
But the fact is a couple of things. They rate. This doesn't mean anything to you, but they rate like 10 points higher as far as my raw stack stuff goes. And when a team is 10 points higher on my sheets, you just kind of have to respect that. You know what I mean? Like it's so it is definitely a tough fade. When you're rated that much higher, and the reason why they're rated that high is, you got the perfect storm. You have good weather, good hitters, and a pitcher who's just gotten obliterated all season. You know what I mean? Now again, I want to say he's got tricks, but this guy, I don't know if he has tricks, but he's got pride. You know what I mean? Like, and that all he's probably hearing about is, okay, you're going into Atlanta, you're going to go 13 runs or whatever it is, and whatever he's got in the tank, or whatever he's got, whatever juicy scout, whatever illegal substance he can put on the ball, whatever he can come up with, he's got to come up with it. So I think that's enough. Maybe not to play him, but I think it's enough that to fade Atlanta. And keep in mind that Atlanta can get 8 runs and not get there anyway. The only problem with that is, something we talked about yesterday is that, or I brought it up, is that Atlanta, they just score their runs just in such fantasy friendly manner. You know what I mean? Like they don't score 8 runs and not get there. Like they score their 8 runs with like 6 home runs and 12. You know what I mean? And Acuna with 4 stolen bases. You know what I mean? It's like
the way they score. Yeah,
that's why they're a tough fade. But if you are going to play Atlanta because they are the best stack on the board, right? You should probably play something other than Rodon. And listen, we'll have some ideas. You play Littell, for example. That's actually a good place to start. Like to play Littell instead of Rodon or something like that. We'll get to some others in a minute. Now Max Fried, and this is a really interesting situation because he's showing up he's going to show up in a lot of optimals. Like the Reed Rodon combination is going to show up pretty strong because quite honestly, he's just like cheaper than $1,400 cheaper than Castillo, right?
And he's a better pitcher.
and he's a better pitcher, but anything that saves you any money at all when Atlanta's on the slate against Wainwright, you know what I mean, is going to be something that you kind of want to do. But every slate's different. But last night, everybody piled on the Strider and saw that worked out. But this is a totally different deal, and one thing I always believed in when I was betting on sports and stuff like that is that whenever you follow a big freaking, fireballer with a control like command guy, it's a tough situation for the other team.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, remember the slate's bad, right? As far as pitching goes. So he's going to show up as probably the cash play alongside of Rodon. And it's weird because this is a guy that we usually say is a good real life pitcher, but doesn't really do anything fantasy wise. And then just last game he brought it to the Dodgers in fine style.
He dominates the Dodgers. He got us in the playoffs once where I think they literally the hardest hit ball was 10 miles an hour off of him.
So I'll probably fade him. And I'm certainly not going to play him with Braves either, so that's I guess that's my overall opinion on this whole game. And I'm not going to, listen, I have enough respect for Fried that I'm not going to play the Cardinals.
Yeah, and it's fun. We've been having some back and forth that's going longer than I would have guessed today because of it, which is great. But I think that if we're really thinking about the slate, first of all, I wouldn't play a 5-man Atlanta stack that include if you did it, you'd have to go 5 through 9 to try and that might actually be a low owned combination because I do think that Harris and Arcia down at the bottom won't be particularly owned. So that will be your one way of maybe getting a little bit different is playing the bottom of the order. I am not going to cross off Atlanta. I'll use them as a complementary stack. The other thing is if I was going to 5-man stack them, I would probably use my other hitters would probably be against Castillo. I probably would take Brandon Lau, or if I could, or one of the one-offs from St. Louis on the other side of this game, something like that to try to you have to get really different in those other 3 spots and hope you get a 2 home run game. I just think for me, it's going to be 3-man Atlanta stacks with 4-man Dodger stacks or something like that. You know what I mean? And I think that way I can get away with playing some Atlanta as complement. I just don't see them failing enough of the time here. And for what it's worth, Wainwright has put 2 out of his last 3 starts. He has quality starts. If you want to try and find a reason for a fade. Also keep an eye out. There's at some point, I think you're going to start seeing guys like Grissom or I think you're going to see Atlanta stop playing all their top guys pretty soon. Probably won't be at home. But they don't need to. These guys are going to start getting rest. They've played a bunch of days. It's a Thursday. I can just see the lineup coming out a little bit wonky today. So just keep an eye out for that. Outside of Acuna, I don't expect. I mean, they're going to play Acuna because he's playing for an MVP and he's in a really tight race, one of the best races we've had. So I'm probably going to stick with my 3 or less Braves, but probably making sure I have at least 2 in all my lineups. So I'm a little bit in a different spot. I just don't see all these guys failing. And my favorite pieces would be Acuna, Olsen. I mean, no surprise there. And then I don't mind the price on Rosario, but I probably will force in Michael Harris. If I get to 4 for any reason, I'll probably force in Harris and Arcia. just to try to get a little bit different with the way I'm playing the Braves, but never getting to 5 today unless I get something really weird for a 3-man. There's also not a whole lot of offenses to choose from today. So it's going to be hard to just fade Atlanta entirely for me, but I love the thinking behind it. I support anyone who wants to do it. I just personally can't do it.
I presume that the wind isn't really blowing out in Chicago today.
Blowing way in.
Yeah, I figured. Otherwise my projections would be different.
Yep.
Okay, so
and it's cold.
So just for fun, since you brought that up, if the wind is blowing in,
it's 10 miles in from left, just to be specific.
10 miles in from left.
Yeah.
And Carlos Rodon's going to be 35% owned, and then other guys, whatever. Is Ryan Nelson the worst play in the world at 5,900? I don't know. It's literally it's a direct question and a rhetorical question. I mean, he's not showing up anywhere on my projections. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. Aside from that, I have no interest in this game. So it's either Nelson as just a ridiculous, just pivot type pitcher, or nothing.
Yeah, I think Assad is like the best play on the slate.
Well, there you have it. Okay.
I honestly am confused by everything. Like why his projection isn't. Where is he projected to be owned?
Well, neither of them. I have neither of them listed.
I'm just going to throw out what Assad's been doing. He's thrown 7 and 8 innings his last 2 starts, 28 and 27 fantasy points, and he hasn't been in single digits in his last 6 starts. And so basically every start he's made when they actually didn't use him as an opener, he has been good. And I don't know why we wouldn't continue riding that. It is Arizona. They have one of the lower totals in the slate at 3.79. Vegas is giving Assad some respect. I think this is a misownership thing. I think that
what's great about this is he's exactly the same price as Rodon.
Yeah, and I was thinking you could even play them together just to get a little, whatever. But I do like Assad quite a bit, and I am totally open to the Nelson idea. He's been so awful his last few starts, but he went through a stretch where he was pitching pretty well. This Cubs team is no fun to pitch against. They just have a lot of good hitters, and they're pretty much all the way through the lineup. There's just enough guys who make contact, and then the guys who do strike out are all just good hitters. So I'm a little more on the Assad side than the Nelson, and I love the ownership. I hope it doesn't creep up. I think it's going to, but I liked playing Assad tonight, and I don't like playing games in Wrigley. If I was going to play anything, it would be the Cubs lefties, because the wind coming in from left field won't affect the power quite as much for the lefties, but it's also 64 degrees, and it's just something to keep in mind. So the Cubs still have a pretty healthy total, by the way. I think they have the second highest total on the slate, even with that win situation, or they're right there with the Yankees. So certainly open to some of the lefties in the Cubs, but mostly it's going to be Assad for me.
Well, so the Assad-Erod pairing. Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You could actually play a couple of Atlantas with this one.
Are people missing this though? What he's been doing? Like I just didn't understand it. Like when I saw.
I mean, it's his last 2 outings, he has some strikeouts, but aside from that, he doesn't really do anything, right?
No, he's only started 5 games this year.
Oh, okay. So
all the other games where he was intentionally to be the actual starter. He was opening other games.
Oh, he's gonna. Yeah. Wait. When
he'd average out to like 20. 21, 22 fantasy points or whatever as a starter.
This is one of those situations where when the win news comes in, especially, I agree with you. I think he's going to be 20% at the end.
Yeah, if people pay attention, and maybe they don't. Maybe they're too focused on football, but I think it's a really good spot.
I like it.
All right, so then we get into the last game sheets. Why don't you start this one off?
Yeah. So there's action in the optimals here. First of all, you have Cal Quantrill, who I have as the tied with Fried for the second best value on the slate. Again, totally different prices. You know what I mean? But I'm just looking at it. I have Quantrill as a very, very strong cheapo. He's getting owned 15-16%. But you pair him with Rodon, obviously. That's the less fancy way to get to Braves. But if you want to pair him with like Littell or Assad, for example, like that's a much easier way to get the Braves into the Angels. Listen, I don't know if he got in yesterday. I think Ohtani was threatening to play yesterday. Did he actually play or no?
No, I'm pretty sure he didn't.
He did not. He didn't take any swings Wednesday as he hoped to do or whatever it is. I mean, without these guys, I mean, the Angels are just very, very weak in general, and 5,300 is really cheap on a day that you want to get to the Braves. He's going to be a big part of a lot of optimals, and I don't necessarily disagree with it. The other thing that's going to show up on optimals is Cleveland as a value stat. Like they're rating for me as the top value stack on the board. So they're gonna come to complement some Atlantas, in some lineups. And if you wanted to fade Atlanta and pay up for pitching, you could use some of the cheapos. I mean, look at some of these prices. Brennan's not bad. Laureano's this whole outfield is under 4K. And even this Arias, he's had a couple of games. Obviously, what's his name? Jimenez is, you know what I mean? Except for it's basically Ramirez, and then the rest of the other eight players match his salary pretty much. So they're going to show up as good value. And listen, the same issue with Cleveland as always. They don't exactly pile on the home runs, but they're going to show up. And as a result of that, I again, maybe I'm just overthinking these things a little bit, but if I'm right about that, maybe Griffin Canning is not the worst idea in the world. Again, you don't really want to go after the Slate. Boy, I really need leverage against the Indians. I mean, it doesn't really work that way, But nonetheless, he's not showing up at that high projected, which is kind of good. And if people get to Cleveland, even in 3-man stacks and 2-man, 3-man stacks, a little bit of leverage you can get from by playing Canning. So I like both pitchers in this game, and Cleveland I think is going to be significantly owned as at least complementary stacks. So that's pretty much what I have here.
So yeah, this is an interesting little bit of a four-pronger for me.
Yep.
I like the Quantrill thing as just a logical thing. It's going to be what people do because you can fit in everything. The Angels have been terrible, et cetera, et cetera. Here's what's going to happen, okay? The Angels are not going to release their lineup until well after lock, which they didn't yesterday, and today lock is 30 minutes sooner. They just don't. It's almost always that their lineup is not out before lock. What if Shohei is in the lineup? And you have a 0% owned team against the second cheapest pitcher who's second cheapest for a reason. Could you make a case here that maybe the Angels are the way to go? I think you could. And even if he doesn't play, it's not look, I mean, they've been terrible, all that stuff, but they have enough guys who are cheap enough to use as complementary pieces at the very least, or maybe make it a 4-4 with Atlanta. I'm sort of open to all the hitting in this game just because it's going to be so low owned. I don't think Cleveland will be particularly high owned actually. I know that they might have forced some things in because that's what Saberson likes to do with the cheap guys. But the cheap guys, they don't have a cheap guy hitting in a good lineup spot like Laureano. But are you really going to play him over Jason Dominguez? I mean, probably not. I don't think people are doing that. I don't think they're playing Cole Calhoun at first base at 3,500. So I actually like the idea of getting to some of the offenses, and I like both pitchers. So it's kind of a weird one, but it's you got to play more game theory than you do actual intelligence on these small slates, or baseball intelligence. And I think that from a game theory perspective, both of these teams, as far as stacks go, make a ton of sense to me. And more so the Angels, actually, because they're going to be the lower owned one, and they're the one who won't have their lineup even. And what if Shohei does show up in that lineup, and you somehow are able to get to a Shohei lineup with a little bit of a Braves thing or something like that? I think it's interesting.
You'll note before you go, you wrap up, and then I'll do a Saberson build. I'm doing it in the background, by the way, right now. This is almost like a legit island game. You know what I mean? This is at 9:40.
Yeah.
Start and nothing before that for 7:40. So
right.
It's very possible that all these games lock really before the Angels lineup comes out.
That's right, 100%. And of course, now that we say it, it's the Angels lineup's going to come out in 10 minutes. But yeah. So that's sort of my overall thinking. I have my 3 priority pitchers as Rodon, Quantrill, and Assad. With Fried and Erod being the next 2 for me. I do like, but again, I really like those guys. And again, I'm considering Canning, Nelson, Castillo, Littell, sorry. I like both LA teams with Atlanta as the side piece, and I am very, very cool going with the 3-3-2 or something like that today. So if I can get my 3 Dodgers, three Braves, and 2 Angels, and making sure I get Mookie and Acuna in there in the same lineups, I think you can do it I think you can do it if you spend down. It's just a matter of how you want to spend down. What I may end up doing is going Assad, Quantrill to get even a little more different than Rodon, although I do like Rodon a lot tonight. So that's sort of my overall look of what I'm going to do. And I built an early build last night, which literally is exactly what I want to do still. But I'm a little concerned about the ownership being a little bit too high. I also want to point out that some of the bigger buy-in tournaments are going to be less. There's a lot less people in them on today's slate. So I'm going to be a little bit more willing to eat some of the chalk than I normally am.
So I just ran the Saber Sim build, and if you guys want to think about what it looks like, I'll share my screen in a minute. I was thinking that it was going to be either, only one of 2 things, in my opinion, it was either going to be like Rodon Quantrill with all the Braves, or Rodon Fried with all like the Indians. I really didn't know which it was going to be. And the answer, again, I'm just doing it based on projected score, which is something, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But not surprisingly, at least to me, we are getting the aforementioned 96% Cleveland.
Wow.
Yeah, and 50% Atlanta, hence all this Cleveland-Atlanta stuff, which I just kind of knew was going to happen. And then pitching-wise, Rodon and Fried with all of it. Now, you'll notice, again, that this is based on projected score. That's just straight optimal builds. Now, if we sort by Saber score, which accounts for at least some degree of ownership, it changes a little bit. Like, it expands the pitching pool a little bit. But as far as the team stacks go, now you get to actually 100% Cleveland. And then only 20% Atlanta. So these guys are showing up as definitely cheap. Now, let me just, again, I'm getting pretty good at doing this really quickly. So I'm going to run one of their contest sims to see what those will look like. Now, typically what that does, and again, I've only been running their contest sims for like a week now, is you get literally like something completely different. You know what I mean? So I'm just kind of like wondering what that's going to be. I'm thinking that they're going to go with all the Braves and the cheapos.
So this is for the Sims, but this is not factoring in ownership.
It is. Well, the contest Sims, yeah, that's like
That's what I'm
leverage. Okay, so what we're going to do, I love the reveal here because this is based on large slate. We're going to change the sort to ROI, and this is where the change usually happens. Ready? Boom. Okay, so Cardinals. So 76% Cardinals, 60% Braves, and then 35% Tigers against Rodon. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, with projected score, you have Fried and Rodon with all the ownership, and when you factor in all the leverage, well, why not? Cardinals and Detroit. You know what I mean? And again, I don't want to get too much into industry stuff here, but I was watching one of the Arsenal shows. I know Josh Engelman, like I know his concept a long time. He's awesome, and they're really big on the Sims and all that stuff now. And he was getting a whole bunch of Cardinals also, so this is not surprising. And this is also what I'm kind of afraid of. It's like not afraid of, but it's interesting to think about. If all the big sites are just going to be running all these contest Sims now, then what's going to happen is everybody's going to be trying to fade ownership, and they're all going to be on these fades. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the next thing you know, the Cardinals are going to be chalk, and will end up only 20% owned or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think the Cardinals let it be chalk, but I hear you in general. I do think there's something wrong with the Sims when it comes to Max Fried. I don't know what that is, but it happens every time you pay. We've gone through this before, and I've done the simulation. I've run them myself. For some reason, they always want to try to pick on Fried. And like I said, that's just never ever worked for anybody.
Well, I do like the pitching pairing, the top pitching pairing.
There you go, Canning and Rodriguez. I like that.
Rodriguez. Now we're getting into it. So if you do Canning Rodriguez, I don't think you need to play the Cardinals, for example. You know what I mean? Like, you play Canning Rodriguez, you're already getting your leverage against Fried for openers,
right.
And I think you could actually go play
How about Canning Rodriguez and the cheaper Dodgers? Ooh, goodness.
Interesting.
Maybe that's too much. Maybe that's too much.
No, it's interesting. I mean, I think there's a lot of ways to go. I'm going to stick with my Dodgers, Angels, Atlanta, and I'm open to the Yankees as well. But I think the Yankees are going to actually end up being more popular than people think.
Yeah. So it's listen, even on a 6-game slate, man, there's as they say, a lot of ways to skin a cat.
Yeah.
I kind of want to play, but I'm leaving at I'll make it work. I don't have to leave until 5 something, but then I'm gonna be missing the Angels lineup. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, you can always. Yeah. All right. Well, that sounds good to me.
You know what I can't do today, though? I don't think I could play the showdown slate, though, because do we have confirmation about Kelsey or no?
I don't have it it's not for sure yet. I think
Yeah.
it'll probably be the injury report. Yeah.
And he'll be then Andy Reid, he won't say anything.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's very true. All right. Well, good luck to everyone. Sheets, I hope you have a good time tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. So everybody watch for more content coming. I think Bobby's going to do something with positions maybe, or maybe tomorrow. I'm going to be doing the MMA DFS breakdown in the next couple of minutes actually, and then we have I'm doing this other thing where I'm going to be going over my approach to the circa against the spread pool, which
That's interesting.
I'm really looking forward to it because it's not going to be what people think it is, but I'll just let that be a surprise. I guess I'll just post it in the NFL section. And that's it.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, take it easy. Good luck, everybody, and we'll see you guys at 6 Eastern. I'll see you guys at 6 Eastern.